You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 18th meeting for the Michigan City Common Council Workshop. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
But thank you all for coming. Today, I know that we have second reading tomorrow on the wheel tax. It was presented already at the last council meeting. And I wanted to make sure that everybody had the correct and right information. I know that, there's a lot of talk and a lot of, chatter, but I want to make sure that everybody understood where we stand in Michigan City. So this is our agenda. I want to talk a little bit about our financial outlook, and then a little bit more about the street department, and then our MVH fund, and then some, did I spell that right? Yeah, legislation, Senate Enrolled Act 1 and House Enrolled Act 1461, and then talk about the wheel and excise tax, and then some additional funding that is available, and then what's next. But I think sometimes we don't educate first, and I consider myself an educator, so I want to make sure that everybody understands where we're at and kind of give you the full picture on why this is necessary versus we're just trying to pass something along to the public. So one of the things that was interesting, there's an article this week, and it says, Governor Braun said, mayors need to find ways to do it for less, right? That we're supposed to figure out how to provide services for less. So one of the things in the article, and I'm going to read it, it says, recently Governor Braun was interviewed and he focused on the empowering effect it has for taxpayers because the annual renewal will force cities to listen to residents to learn what level of services they want and what they are willing to pay for. Okay? Interesting, since in Michigan City, we have some of the lowest water and sanitary district rates. Our bills are like $50 for water and sewer together, right? Also, we're one of the only cities that doesn't charge an additional fee for garbage in like the whole state, just about, right? And then we don't charge for compost, right? And most cities outsource their garbage collection. So I find it interesting that we want the public to decide what they're willing to pay for. And right now, our citizens aren't paying for any of these extra things. So now we're gonna figure out what they're willing to pay for. So I just want to start with that because that's what we're dealing with right now. Okay. So our financial outlook. So I want to talk a little bit and spend a little bit of time on the Riverboat Fund because we have relied heavily on the Riverboat Fund to fund everything. And we've seen a steady decline for a long time. So historic high was in 2014. We received $26 million in Riverboat Fund. Historic low was during COVID-19. We received $6.8 million. We created the Rainy Day Fund in 2022. I always believe, even when I was on the council the first time when we put some parameters in, is that this money could go away someday, and then we're going to be SOL, right? So, right now we're averaging about $8 million a year. That's what we receive. That's it. $8 million total, and it's declining steadily. Right now the average is about 8 for the last 2-3 years, but that's where we're at compared to 26, 23, 14. But what's interesting is that it was all spent up, even the additional monies. So our cash balances between 2016 and 2019, we ate up 8.7, almost $8.8 million of the reserves. All right, that was cash reserve. So we spent way more than what we were bringing in during that time period. Now, between 2020 and 2023, we increased our reserves, but that was only because we received all this additional money. We received $1 million for COVID, coronavirus relief, and then we received $16 million that we've been spending right now. So between the rainy day fund and us using this money, we're starting to build up our cash reserves, which is going to be gone like within the next year or two anyway. And then this past year, I tried to have a zero-sum budget, so we only decreased the reserve by $60,000. But as you can see, we don't have a cushion at all of riverboat money. We're spending it as we get it now. Spending as we get it. And I can send you guys the Excel sheet that has all the information, all the data in it. But I think this is important as we talk about this. So our MVH fund, and you know, its purpose is for roads and streets, right? And it's from fuel taxes, vehicle registration, all this fancy stuff. These are the codes if you want to write the code down. This one is the one that applies to us. And this is talks a little bit about how that distribution happens. But the biggest thing is there was some legislation that was passed in 2018 that went into effect in 2019. So one of the things that was stressed during that session was that cities are just using the money for people and not really doing any roads. So so there was some legislation that was passed that said 50% can go for roads and all of that, and 50% can go towards personnel. Well, that was a problem because, and I'll show you in the next slide, so MVH restricted is only for construction, reconstruction, and preservation of highways. Routine maintenance and personnel are no longer qualifying under the restricted. But the goal was for us to get our PACER ratings, you know, get them up, you know, and to do more roads than we've been doing. That means there were some really bad actors. Somebody was bad and they blamed all of us for it, right? That we were just using the money for contractual services, paying for a lot of consultants, and that's what we were doing. And based on some of the financing I've seen, we did a little bit of that too. So I know this is an eye chart, but I'm going to tell you what it says. So what I did is I took the street department. The street department is solely funded by MVH. Right? So motor vehicle highway is their budget classification. But we have had to offset and help fund their operations with riverboat funds. Ever since that legislation went into effect, we've been transferring riverboat funds. 2024, 1.9 million. This year, 1.6 million. Riverboat funds, in addition to the MVH funds, the unrestricted funds. So riverboat's going down, but we're having to fund the street department with riverboat funds, right? And that doesn't even talk about CCMG. So we have local roads and streets are restricted, our riverboat transfer that we're doing every year now, and our unrestricted funds. And then these are the expenses that we have. So we're eating into any cash balances we had in some of those categories too as well. But 1.9 and 1.6 million in riverboat is a lot of money that we're transferring to cover our street department. CCMG, we've had to become creative in our match. $1 million from riverboat for a match, $1 million. We've been using redevelopment to match for CCMG. So we're using funding sources that are declining to do the match. And that's important. That's important for me to state that again, is that for 24 and 25, you know, we could match up to 1.5 million, and we want to use free money. So we want to go for the maximum. So 1.5, we didn't have enough. So we went to Riverboat, we went to CCMG redevelopment, and the restricted fund. Because remember, not just CCMG, we still pave roads and do other projects outside of CCMG. So we still have to budget for that. We budget for salt, brine, all those other things too. So just want to make sure you understand that we are funding with redevelopment money, TIF dollars that are declining in some instances, and then riverboat money that is declining. That's what we've been using to cobble together our match for CCMG. So Senate Enrolled Act, I basically start with your slide, Matt. So I'm going to introduce Jennifer and Matt from AIM, Indiana. I took 2 of their slides, so I want them to introduce themselves. But, you know, I spent a lot of time down in Indianapolis this spring. I think they thought I lived there for a little while. I was in their office working on certain days, so I was like, can I post up here? And they would allow me to do that, which is great. But they're seeing this across the state, and they're hearing it from all of us mayors. They take good care of us, by the way, so I thank you for that. But these are some of the general impacts. I'm going to let you say a few words, Matt. Introduce yourself.
Talk about it now?
Yes.
All right. Where do you want me? Up there? Back
Yeah,
here?
you can just, stand right here so they can see you.
All right. Hey, everybody. Matt Greller with AIM, CEO. This is Jennifer Simmons, COO. We've been working at AIM for a long time, and certainly as council members, those of you that are council members here, you're members of ours too. So we work with communities all across the state, north to south. I was just in Madison, Indiana, the complete opposite end of our state about a week and a half ago, doing this same kind of conversation down there. So any questions you have, any comments, happy to take those on, but the mayor is exactly right. Does anyone remember property tax caps from back in the mid 2000s?
I was here.
You were here? Okay, so those were really devastating and really impactful, I think, to how municipalities operated going forward. Fast forward to this past legislative session, and I'll let the mayor throw the blame around, but I think we know where it's directed or where it needs to be placed for the most part. I would say the difference between property tax caps and today, there was a clear outlet mechanism for property taxes. Grow your community, you can offset a lot of the loss that you were experiencing back then. As of today, there's no outlet mechanism available to you. That possibility doesn't even exist until 2028 when the legislature is giving us a new income tax. So you are going to see significant loss from Senate Enrolled Act 1 in a variety of ways. The mayor had them all listed, the slide previous to this one. There you go. And I'm sure you've got estimates. The state has estimates on just the property tax side. But if we really start getting into the complexities of what passed the General Assembly, you will see a real offset between what you're collecting today in terms of income, local income tax, versus what you will be collecting under the new income tax structure should the council elect to adopt that in 2027, 28, whenever we get the actual green light to do that. And that's because your base is smaller here. If you just think about it geographically, the base is smaller inside the city limits than it is outside of the city and the county area. And there are some nuances, and we can get into those at a future time, but suffice it to say, you all are doing the exact thing you ought to be doing in looking at revenue raising measures today just to maintain the level of service you have that your residents expect you to have going forward. So I would applaud you for doing that. I think no one likes to pass a tax, right? Nobody. But you have an opportunity to get a little bit out in front of what's coming down the road or coming down the tracks, if you will. I guess I should use railroad jokes here with the South Shore. But it's going to be really important that you do this. No one likes passing a tax. It's going to open up some opportunities that we'll probably get into here in a minute about some new distributions from the state. And in fact, if you don't have a city wheel tax in place, you're going to be missing out on some automatic money that would be coming your way. The mayor has articulated already about the need in your street department that we're seeing. So I think it's a great opportunity for you to do this. Again, Senate Enrolled Act 1, we can send you reams and reams of data on all the different impacts. I'm sure your controller and your other fiscal folks are working on that every day to try to plan for the future where it's coming from. But again, no one likes passing a tax. I'll just stop there for now and say that you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to pass new fees probably on down the road. You're going to have to pass a new income tax that replaces the old one that's going to go away. A whole different list of things are going to come down the road, and we hope that we give you the information and the confidence to go ahead and do this. It's going to be a tough few years for local governments.
Thank you. All right, and then after we're done, we'll take questions too.
Okay.
So the next piece of legislation that I need to talk about is House and Road Act 1461. And this is the road funding bill, basically. And there were several things that, at first, there was a lot of fighting. I think we did a resolution, you all did a resolution against it, because at first it was going to be mandatory to pass the wheel tax. And so now it's not. But there were several changes on the restrictions. If your PASER rating average goes up, you have less restrictive MVH funds it kind of frees up a little bit of that. For us, it helps qualify you for some additional funding. There was a lot of nuances, but I want to get to the changes that for us. So with the local wheel tax, so the matching grant has nothing to do with the wheel tax. I just want to make sure it's not a requirement that we pass the wheel tax to get the matching CCMG grant. It's
Number one question we get every day: do you have to have a wheel tax to get the CCMG money?
You don't. So that was proposed initially, but that is not the case. So, but we're all eligible to apply. But it's going to be once a year now instead of 2 cycles, which I never got that anyway. We only apply once since I've been here, but it's going to be on the state fiscal year. But the lane mile direct distribution, I have a couple slides, I'll talk about that. That's a new funding opportunity, and you have to pass the wheel tax to unlock that money. And what that does though, it also impacts CCMG, the maximum grant amount. So basically, I'm gonna use an example, I have one in here, but let's say $1 million. Let's say that CCMG is $1 million, the maximum amount that we can get. And we're getting a distribution of 200,000. That lowers our amount for CCMG from 1 million to 800,000. So now it requires less of a match because now we have this money that we get every year. If we pass the wheel tax, we'll get this amount. Yes.
What's the reasoning behind mandating local municipalities to pass a wheel tax in order to receive this money? Where's the connection?
It's a carrot. It's a carrot. That's all it is.
Why do they want us to pass it?
It's a carrot. First of all, for us, I don't know why, but I'm telling you why we need to. And that's because we're going to lose $1 million from Senate Enrolled Act 1. So if we don't, we're not going to have this extra pot of money that they're giving us a carrot to pass the wheel tax for. So their bucket has shrunk in the wheel tax. As far as their bucket of money that they're allocating for roads is not the same bucket that they had before. And I don't know if that's the only thing I can say.
I mean, that's the real answer probably. The other school of thought is that the legislature loves this phrase, skin in the game, here recently. So they want cities and towns, in our case, in counties, to have skin in the game. So and I would go back to the CCMG as well. I would be shocked in the next 2 to 4 legislative sessions if we don't have a mandate to have a wheel tax in place to get CCMG as well. It's coming. We've been told by leadership. We've been told by leadership multiple times that this is going to happen. So the real rationale, I don't know the exact answer to your question, but that's where we're headed.
Yes, Tim. I'm sorry.
All these acronyms, tell me what lane mile direct distribution.
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
That's further down the line.
Okay.
We're going to stick to wheel tax and excise tax first.
I'm just gonna
put it out there then. So in other words, is it really just saying shifting the responsibilities back on us?
Oh, everything is being shifted back to the
Everything.
cities. Yes, 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 Tommy.
Yeah, are we gonna be taxed at $40 for a commercial vehicle, $25 for a passenger motor vehicle, and $10 for a motorcycle and trailer?
Oh, I'm getting, okay. Let me get there. So why does this matter? So this is what we're gonna see in revenue loss first. 2026, we're looking at $1 million, 27, $1 million. 2028, we're estimating $3.7 million that we're gonna be losing because with the LITs going away, what they're allowing us to pass locally does not cover what we're receiving already. So they're taking all this stuff away, then we have to pass a local income tax that's not gonna cover what we receive today. So that's the shortfall that we're gonna see, $3.7 million. And again, I've already told you Riverboat is, are decreasing. We're in the middle of all our labor negotiations this year, right now. Our street department's funded with local roads, MVH and Riverboat, that's declining. And CCMG match has been a combination of all of those. TIF funds, Riverboat funds, and this wheel and excise tax can offset those losses and support, the projects that we have moving forward. That's where we're at. So, what is the excise tax? So I was confused until I started really doing my homework. I threw them all into one lump sum, and they're different. So it's basically a fee for us to use to do our streets and all of that, but there's a difference. So Low Hut, so I don't know where they got that from. The local option highway user tax is the wheel tax and excise tax. And the wheel tax is basically commercial vehicles.
Right.
And then the excise tax is actual passenger vehicles. And I'll show you a screen for that. So these are the codes. I want to make sure that people, the clerk's office will have this so that if anybody wants a copy or wanted to, want an email. But these are the codes that kind of govern this. So in order for this to go into effect for next year, we have to pass it this council meeting this week. And let me backtrack a little bit. We're preparing the budget at a loss. We're already negative before I can even, so we're trying to figure this thing out, and that's why we're trying to get this passed in whatever shape, form it's gonna be in. And so I wanted to make sure that we talk about it, but that you have all of the information. That's why the historical information was important. Did you have a question, Brian?
I was just saying that when this first came out and I agreed to sponsor this, Amber did point out to me that we needed to have that done. So we're going second and third reading tomorrow.
Yep, if the council chooses to do so. So I passed out some papers, this estimation tool. Oh, yes, Joe.
I have a clarification question. So for the ordinance tomorrow, is it separated or is it all combined like you guys said?
It has to be, both have to be passed.
So those are two different ordinances there?
No, it's one ordinance with both things, and it has to be, because you can't pass one without the other.
Correct.
So it's one ordinance for excise and wheel tax.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you have to pass them together.
Okay,
So
I
that's
just wanted to clarify.
yeah. So what I did, Purdue has been great. LTAP has been great, and I'll send you the calculator. But the calculator, what I passed out for everybody to have was Michigan City's numbers. And what I did is I put in the minimum amounts and then the maximum amounts so that you can see, what we would generate as far as money from the wheel tax. So the minimum amount of estimated revenue is about $183,000, but the maximum estimated is about $638,783. I don't know anybody who didn't pass the minimum. everybody's going for the max. Well, let me say this, if the match for the wheel tax, for the CCMG is $1 million, it kind of makes sense, but I'll leave that up to the council if they want to make a amendment or not. I'm against trying to go for the minimum. It's $25 for residential, for passenger vehicles. And then we can maneuver, you can see, these are the numbers that they have for registrations. I wanted to make sure people saw they got buses, semi-tractors. We're not farmland, so you're not gonna see as many of those. So that doesn't generate as much money as the passenger vehicles because we're not a farm community. Yes,
What
sir.
about motorcycles and trailers?
Motorcycles,
I think they're 10.
motorcycles, we have in here
15?
at $15.
15 for motorcycle.
So that's kind of what we have in here for our numbers for Michigan City for the maximum. But I want people to see this because there's a dramatic difference, right? And these two slides, that's all they do is show these broken out. But you all have this, so I'm gonna move on. So you asked me what is lane mile direct distribution. Any questions before we move to that? Yes, Dr. Ford?
Yeah, Randy, somewhere in that presentation, you said that counties can also have wheel tax.
Yeah.
So people living in Michigan City, will they pay both the county and the city wheel tax, or only the city wheel tax?
That was a question I had from Matt today. I said, Matt, you may get this question because I don't know the answer, but yes. They have, our county does not have a wheel tax, as we know it. LaPorte City passed the wheel tax years ago. So they've been benefiting from that, even though I feel like our roads are better, but anyway.
We'll dig in there, Germany.
I know, Tom. But yes, they have not passed the wheel tax. And I don't know even if it's on the agenda or anything. I don't know where they're at. I just want to make sure that we take care of ourselves first.
But if they pass it, will it affect only the unincorporated county?
No,
or will
it affects
everyone?
everybody.
The second question I have, who collects this? Is it at the BMV?
Yes.
And then it goes to the state and then they send it back to us?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, this is not something that the city collects. This is done when you renew your license plates.
Okay.
So that's how it's paid. It's a part of your annual or biannual fee that you pay.
Are the counties being held under the same stipulations as the cities, or are they kind of being shared, as you would say?
Yes. Same thing. But again, for us to start getting that distribution next year, it has to be done before September 1. Because once it's passed, we have to get it to the BMV and we have to get it to, it's two places, Department of Revenue, or whatever. So the additional pot of money that I talked about was the lane mile distribution. So this was passed in 1461. It's new funding. So it's to allocate state road funds more equitably, which I'm shocked that that's the word they're using, on the number of lane miles that we have. So there's a calculation that's being calculated for the number of road miles. And to be eligible for it, you have to pass the wheel and excise tax. Right? And you have to adopt before next year. Because the first distribution is not till, oh, that got a typo. The first distribution is June of 2027. So, so we have time, but you still have to pass the wheel tax before you are eligible for it. And again, I guess we do an asset management plan, so already, and then have a population over 5,000. I think that's a change. The smaller towns now have to do an annual management plan. We've been doing that already, so that's not a change for us. So the money that's available, is 190 to 255 million dollars. But again, they want you to have skin in the game by passing the wheel and excise tax. And the number of the amount we receive depends on who all passes the wheel tax, and then our portion of the lane miles of the county. So it's a calculation. So I mentioned this earlier about the caveat about if it reduces the amount of CCMG award, and that's just an example of how that would be subtracted. So for our matching grant for CCMG, if we get the lane mile distribution. For Michigan City, we have 244 lane miles. And right now, it looks like it's approximately 200,000 plus in addition. So that gets us close to our $1 million. So that's pretty good. But they must be used for road and bridge capital projects. Will be distributed directly to us, and it reduces the reliance on some of these. Let's say, for instance, and this is my example. Let's say we get into a really bad year where we don't even have matching funds. We know we're going to get this money every year. This money is going to be automatic every single year, no matter what, if you pass the wheel tax. So I think that's important.
Yeah, Mayor, does this also apply to the brick streets that we have in Michigan City? I don't know if you know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
As long as it's in your lane mile inventory.
Oh, it is. It is in our lane mile inventory. So yes.
All right.
Are there any CCMG community crossings?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is important because we use riverboat money to fund the brick fund. That's where we're getting that too. So I didn't even think about that, which we don't have to be putting in there every year. So it's another thing. Might have to add that to the presentation. So this came from Purdue. It says, so what we know, LOHUT, what they're calling it, is the wheel and excise tax. Wheel tax equals a flat fee of $5 minimum, $40 maximum. Excise tax, $7.50, 25 maximum. To qualify for the lane mile distribution, we must adopt the wheel tax. And then it talks about the amount of money that's available. What we don't know is all of those things, which is crazy. They passed it, but we still don't know a lot of things. And I know that our deputy controller is in Board of Works, but they just were at the conference Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week in French Lake, and there was still a lot of things. One of the things that was shared with us is a majority of their staff has less than 5 years that are doing like our audits and stuff. The interns, they had interns that didn't even have driver's licenses, that couldn't even drive to, so, trying to keep it together. So there's a lot to be said, for the stress and strain of putting on local municipalities when they have a lot of questions themselves. So they're still working through some things on the lane mile distribution and what that looks like, and how to get it and when and all of that. So those are interesting fun facts that we'll have to hide and watch and see what's gonna happen. So this is why we're bringing this forward to the council now. We need to have local control over this infrastructure money and trying to figure out how to budget. Number one, I can't finish putting things into the budget until I know what we're going to do with this. It reduces some of our reliance on them, even though we're up in the air on our regular property taxes. And then it unlocks the additional money in 2027. Again, we got till September 1. We have to submit to B&B and the Department of Revenue. And then January 1 becomes effective next year. And this is my call to, yes, ma'am.
I was at the meeting last year in regard to the council members, September 1st. If you do not pass it by then, it won't start until January of 2027.
That's correct.
So if we really want this tax and these revenues are huge, we're gonna be losing a lot. We really need to
And this
hopefully
is our
pass it
sister.
tomorrow. Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and one of the other things that we want to do, and that's why we want to get this done, is we've priced out the equipment to do some internal paving program with our own employees from the street department. We're talking about $2 million.
Wow.
But I think it'll be worth it in the long run. If CCMG and some of these things are going to start becoming more harder to get, you know, if there's going to be more of an issue, it's really one of those things that we're going to have to figure out how to do it on our own. Because the bids are getting higher. You know, bidding our projects can become expensive. So we want to make sure that we put the tools in place to make sure we're on the right track.
Question. You're in the wrong room. When did you start? How long ago?
5:30.
Okay.
5:40. But we're going to take questions. And I do have handouts right here that have our minimum and our maximum. So, yeah, so we will go ahead and take some questions and give you copies of everything.
How can it remain in the modules to go like 5 modules? Thank
Yes.
You ready?
Y'all ready?
It's just that one.
Yeah, just for clarification.
I gave them my,
Yeah,
his
yeah.
account.
You won't be paying 2 taxes at one time. You'll be getting the,
Excise tax is for passenger vehicles.
right.
And
Real tax
is
is
for
for
commercial.
buses and commercial things
Yes.
like that. So what the average homeowner or person that owns a car, you're gonna be paying $25 a year.
Yes.
It's not gonna be the combination of two.
No.
Or you're gonna be paying $65
No.
a year.
No.
Yeah, I just want
Because that was confusing. When the first document that we got last year, it looked like we were paying for both.
Yeah,
It didn't.
yeah.
It didn't really break it out when
Yeah.
Baker Tilly gave it to us, and I was confused. I thought it was $65,
Yeah.
but it's actually $25 per passenger
Yeah.
and $40 for commercial.
Right,
That's correct.
yeah, so.
Yes, sir.
This is in addition to any county tax, wheel tax that would like to be enacted.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
So we're looking at minimum $50 potentially.
If they pass one. I don't know if they have it on their agenda yet. But that is correct. That question came up as we were talking. One thing that I did cover too, so we covered the, where we're at in our revenues, and we covered the riverboat, the amount of money and the decline in our riverboat funding, and also the cash reserves for the riverboat, and how those have already, they've been used up over time. We're building that back up right now just to prepare for what's to come. But next year and the year after, we're looking at $1 million shortfall from Senate Enrolled Act 1. And then in 2028, $3.7 million. So in 2028, the public safety lit that we just got passed a couple of years ago is gone. And right now, that funds salaries for police and firemen. And we're going to lose $3.7 million once we move towards that. So, and how much do we get in public safety lit right now? About 4 million. Yeah, so fire gets 2 million, police gets 2 million. And we're gonna lose 3.7. Yes, sir.
Again, I'm sorry we missed the beginning.
Oh, that's okay.
It's in the wrong room.
That's all right.
Could you discuss I read in the Herald that the state is mandating that you implement a wheel tax, or maybe the county, the state's mandating the county, so that you have access to buckets of money.
Yes.
Right? Did you
Yep.
go over that already?
Yep, and I'll explain it.
Okay.
So if you pass the wheel tax, lane mile distribution, direct distribution money is available. There's still some things that are up in the air, but in order to have access to that bucket, you have to pass the wheel and excise tax. But that bucket of money is not available until 2027, June of 2027.
So that's part of the rationale for doing this?
I don't know if it's a rationale. I think it's a carrot, but I don't know how rational it is.
Why do you think they did that? Like, why would
that question came up too? We don't know. I think they're trying to make sure cities have skin in the game. I don't know what the rationale is for it, but at least they're not making it, what the original legislation was that didn't pass was they wanted the wheel tax to be mandatory to get CCNG. That is not the case right now. So it's not mandatory to pass the wheel tax to get the CCNG. I think, and we shared that, we think that eventually it will be, but at this time it's not. But it's on the horizon. It just didn't make it through. It was so much pushback from all of the cities and counties that they dropped the requirement. But to get the additional money, they put that carrot in. If you want this additional bucket of money, you have to pass it.
So that is mandatory, that other bucket of money?
If you want that bucket of money, you have to pass it.
And what's that bucket of money referred to as?
The lane mile direct distribution.
So you abbreviate
LMDD.
LMDD, okay, yeah.
I think it's on that, it might be on. It's on there somewhere. But so that's what they've done.
And I see on What We Know, you could have a $5 minimum wheel tax. Is that true?
Yes.
That could be $5?
It's about 163,000 for us compared to 658,000.
Right. So I'd like to just share my opinion, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Ray Maloney. I live here in Michigan City. I moved here 4.5 years ago. Before I moved here, I lived in Cook County, Illinois. I lived in unincorporated Cook County. I had 4 children I raised there. I came here, among other things, to escape high taxation. So while I was in Cook County, there was no wheel tax where I lived. I was in unincorporated. And then a wheel tax was implemented. And that wheel tax seemed not that great at first, but cars. The next thing I know, I'm behind on paying that wheel tax, and then I'm getting hit with fines, I'm getting hit with extra fees, and before that, I know it, I've got to get a friend who's an attorney to go to deal with this, because I'm getting billed for cars I don't even own. Right, I sold them. And
so they didn't do it with the BMV?
They not only did they did it with Cook County, and you can look all this up. Cook County, at one point, Cook County, I finally got a state tax refund from the state of Illinois, right? What did Cook County do? They garnished a portion of that and paid wheel tax that I owed. And I had to also hire a lawyer to do this. And then what's interesting, in 2023, and I've been here 4.5 years, if you look it up, 2023, Cook County repealed the wheel tax. They got rid of it. So I just want to say that I am dead set against any wheel tax and any additional tax. I understand we have budget shortfalls. I understand we need money for various programs, but my recommendation is to look at your budgets, cut some programs.
We did.
Do not add taxes, and I know you got to get your I know you gotta get, that bucket of money. So if you do have to implement this, let's make it a $5 tax, and let's say that we can never increase it for, say, a period of 10 years, so that we lock it in.
I'm gonna go back to what you missed, so that you understand where we're at.
Okay?
So, what we've been funding our street department, Michigan City, and I'm gonna say this as nicely as I can, is that we've been living off of riverboat money for a while, and using that as our backstop for everything, and using TIF dollars for it as well. And the governor has said that we need to do more with less, or let people decide what they're willing to pay for. And in Michigan City, our city is one of the only cities that doesn't charge for garbage, in addition to what you pay in your taxes. We have the lowest water and sewer bills. Our rates are the lowest in the region, and we know $50. I know some people who pay $50 without the usage before they even get started. Actually, $90 without the usage in LaPorte County. And so we don't charge for anything already. Michigan City doesn't. We don't charge for anything. But one of the slides I want you to see is our street department is funded with riverboat dollars, 1.9 million, 1.6 million already. That's not taxpayers' dollars at all. That's in addition. And then the next one, our matching dollars to even get money for road funding. We're using riverboat money, and we're using TIF dollars. So Senate Bill 1, in addition to that, we're losing $1 million off the top. Where is that at? Right here. That's where we're at. So we can pass the minimum and cut back on doing roads. I like doing the maximum amount of road paving because our streets are older. We went for 1.5 million this year. We went for 1.5 last year, but I had to cobble the money together. And the wheel tax is going to assist us in keeping that momentum going. We have $1 million match every year, and we have to find the money somewhere. So, council members, I know you're all in here. Any additional questions? Because it is a workshop. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, Mayor Angie, 2028, 3.7 million public safety lit and seated go away. What's happening?
That was legislation. The legislation that was passed, all of the lits go away, and you have to pass a local income tax that does not cover what we're losing. The maximum that they're allowing us to pass here locally does not cover what we're going to lose. So they put it all on us.
But the public safety lit was something we were paying for here, right? Weren't we paying for them? Weren't we paying here locally?
Yeah, but they're taking it all away.
So they repealed that legislation and want to have a separate tax.
Yeah.
That way they can say they're cutting our taxes.
Yes, but they're putting it on us to now we have to, the council now has to pass a local income tax. And then they capped it. So we're not gonna even cover what we get today. So that's why I want to make sure I gave all the history and all the historical information, because that's what's important. You need to know that when I go back to the riverboat, slide, where we got anywhere, we were getting 16, 18 million, 23 million, 26 million dollars in riverboat. You see where we're at? Our average is about 8. And then we had a record low cash balance in 2019. ate up all of the riverboat money. Yes, sir.
I also think it's important for, not everybody, none of us want to pay higher taxes, but I think it's important that we recognize the city of Michigan City and Mayor Angie cut $6 million out of this year's budget compared to last year's. So that's hard to do.
I'm gonna have to ask for, I cut too much, I'm gonna have to ask for some money back.
Well, the Gary money is going to be paid out over what, 10 years?
Say that again?
The Gary money, the riverboat?
Yeah, it's
10 years? Yeah.
starting next year, so it's not enough to.
She's already cut a lot out of our budget.
But that's the thing. I think that people don't understand, as far as being fiscally conservative, I'm probably that person. But it's one of those things that this is factual. This is what it is. This is factual. This riverboat, we can't count on that. We shouldn't. Yes, Tim?
And your chart just shows the amount of money we got and not the value related to what it was when we got 23 million.
Right.
Dropped 2,000 inflation.
Right. So that's kind of where we're at. And so I want to make sure that people had the data, the real information, not just talk about the wheel tax. Wheel tax, nobody wants taxes. I don't want it. I mean, nobody does. But just the fact of the matter is the state is pushing this all back down on local municipalities to do it. That's what it is. You know, and the hard, fast truth of it is now we have to look at everything. We gotta look at trash, we gotta look at fees, we gotta look at how are we gonna bring up our infrastructure of our plants. And you know, we pay $50 for water. Even when my water heater busted and my sump pump, my bill was only $100. I mean, you don't have that anywhere. It's just what it is. Michigan City, we have been behind the 8 ball, and now my administration is forced to deal with it. We have not invested over time to feel so that the impact wouldn't be so great. So now that's where we're at. Yes, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, people are dancing around the fact that this is simple politics. They're doing all of this stuff, and like you said, they're putting the burden back on the city. So now when we, as a council, have to pass tax raises, who gets the blame? We will. And then I had a question for the AIM folks here, because I remember not too long ago, all of the state reps and everybody was running around hollering about this big surplus we had. What happened to the surplus? They kept saying it over and over and over. They were running around bragging on every TV program I would see. They were talking about this big surplus. I'm wondering whatever happened to the surplus.
Well, it's still there. I think latest report is around $2.5 billion surplus at the state level on paper. On paper, the folks that will tell you what it really is far less than that, with some of the Medicaid obligations that are coming down the road, et cetera, and some of those kinds of things. So an exact number, I don't have it for you, but on paper, it's still $2.5 billion.
And I haven't even brought up anything outside of street with our medical and insurance that we got to deal with this year too, as well, during our contract negotiations. We're in the middle of contract negotiations for multiple unions at the same time that this is happening. So this all matters. This all matters. And I just want to make sure that the public knows that, though. Yes, Dr. Corey.
May I have one suggestion? Tomorrow, before we discuss this at the council meeting, 3 or 4 important slides need to be presented at the council meeting.
Okay.
Like the one you had earlier, and also the impact of Senate Bill 1. What is it going to have an impact for us on the city? And also please show us what happened to the riverboat revenues over a period of time. I think people need to know. A lot of people don't come here and they'll be watching the council meeting. I think that everybody needs to know what is driving this.
Okay. I can do that. Yes, sir.
To the point you made a minute ago, that going back a few years, when we were getting 23 million or whatever for a year for the riverboat,
and that investments were done with that money when we had it. Is the city doing anything at this point to change that? Have you found a way to start setting, or can you, or will you start setting aside money to invest, to be able to build up some kind of reserve? Obviously, it would have been much simpler.
We did. At the last council, we did. We did set a rainy day fund, but we had to use that. We didn't give raises last year. We used some of that money just to give a small bonus this past summer to the employees to at least show some appreciation. So we do have a rainy day fund, but we're not putting anything in it right now. We created it and we started putting money in it. COVID happened, we was like, hey, start putting money in it. But now we're at this place where Riverboat was overestimated on how much we're gonna get. So there was a year, you know, and even we have another fund like that with the Boyd Gaming. You know, that Boyd Gaming fund used to get like $1 million. Then it was down to 400. We get $50,000 in that fund now. And people aren't going inside the casino to gamble. They're going to eat outside of the casino inside of Blue Chip, but not wagering, right? So tell your people go, no, I'm just playing. But one of the things that, let me see if this is my spreadsheet. I got a lot of data, y'all. This might be one of them. Nope, that's not the one. I got one that shows the riverboat. I like charts, so sorry. This is the riverboat, I think. Is this riverboat? Yeah. So I'm gonna blow this up so y'all can see it. Let me get here. So this is river. So this is. I went all the way back to 2012, so that I could see the trend. And let me make sure I can freeze this cell. Lock it. Let me lock it. Where is it?
At the top, it's freeze frame.
Yeah, but it's in. Let me just look at
Data.
Here we go. So 2012, we brought in 18 million. We spent 18.5. 2013, we brought in 22. We spent 23. 2014 was a good year. We brought in 26. We only spent 19. 2015, we brought in 16.9. We spent 16.2. But look at 2016. We brought in $10 million, we spent 15. 2017, we brought in $10 million, we spent 9. Look at 2018. We brought in $9 million, we spent 11. 2019, we brought in 9, we spent 13. Left our cash balance the lowest it's ever been in 2019. Then COVID happened. We brought in $6 million, we spent 5. We froze capital spending, we cut a bunch of things, and we spent 5.4 million. 2021, 22, these are ARPA years. Money's been great, but it's gone after next year. It's gone. So this is where we've been. This is where we've been.
So what was the money you said is going to be gone?
ARPA, American Rescue Plan money. We received $16 million in 2021, and we had the final allocations were last year, you know, as far as where they're going. So that money's done. That's been the saving grace, because, you know, we were able to give some money out to the employees, to essential workers. We spent money on capital. We bought equipment. You know, we are doing an annexation project. We're putting water and sewer in at the annex property by the airport. So, but that's been our backstop. Now that's gone. So now we're gonna be short $1 million. Every union is asking for more stuff and raises, and we're already short. And our medical is up. Did you have a question, Daryl?
No.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm seeing, you don't show any slide before the riverboat.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You don't show any slide before the riverboat. So you got accustomed to this great amount of money that came into the riverboat. You don't want to talk about how it was before that.
Oh, I can say a little bit about it. So when I joined the council the first time in 2008, and it was a group of us who felt like the city was relying too heavily on the riverboat. I didn't move back to 2003. The riverboat was here when I moved back. It wasn't here when I lived here before. You know, I was a kid. But one of the things that happened, our council, well, Chuck Overly was the mayor, and it got to the point where they were spending for operations 50% riverboat. And so the council I was on, we put in stipulations that, and it stepped down to 20%. That's the most you could spend a riverboat. 20% towards operations. Chuck vetoed it. We overrode the veto to put that in place. Now, what happened after that, they would use 20% for their budget. But if you go back and look through the council agendas, and I did, basically the administration has said, go to the council and make a request for additional appropriation. So all that money was getting spent through additional appropriations, not through budgets. So if you go back every single month, there was an additional appropriation for something. And it just kept getting spent. I mean, a lot of consultants, a lot of engineering firms, a lot of stuff. A lot of dollars for marketing and stuff that we are not benefiting from today. The Riverboat Fund really truly should have been, in my opinion, I should be able to point to projects in the city that I could say that Riverboat funded. But we don't have that. And now we got $8 million a year that we need to use. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've always been the one that's, sponsored cutting back on the riverboat because it could go right. And now here we are. COVID showed it. Yes, sir.
I'm beating this dead horse a little bit, but back to the putting money aside aspect. I'm thinking as an individual, the only way I can build a savings account up is if I put that money in faithfully and make a habit of it and just don't consider it part of my available funds. Because if I am dipping into it, then I'm undoing what it is I'm trying to accomplish with it.
That was the goal. I agree with you. So the rainy day fund was set up some years ago, but they never put any money in it. The last council started putting money into the rainy day fund. And so money's in there. Actually, a project that we did, we're not even using all of the money that we get set aside for the water and sewer project. It came in at much lower, so we'll still have that money for the rainy day fund. And quite frankly, we got development that's going to happen, so we're going to get money. We're going to get something back out of it, at least, for doing it. So that's a good thing.
So going forward, then, do you intend? I mean, has it been put in place? We are going to keep doing, setting the money aside. Is there an absolute plan that's not going to be fluctuating on continuing to put money aside?
No, not at this time with the new Senate bill, because we're already short. So we are not putting anything because we don't know what we have. That's why we're trying to get all these things in place to see where we're at. It's hard to make that decision to set the money aside when we don't know if we got the money to set aside. So that's the only reason why we're not doing anything, because I'm a firm believer that we should. It's too many outstanding factors right now. Yes, sir.
I was a teacher at Purdue and also an architect. And a lot of the students that came out of Michigan City, I was very amazed. They did not know math. They did not know English. And here I'm teaching technical classes, and it was a panic. So I'm looking at the records now of Michigan City High School. They're abysmal, okay? Math comprehension, 15%. Okay, and this is graduating students. Okay, English comprehension, 30%. Science comprehension, 17%. Our high school right here, it ranks 197th in the state of Indiana. Okay, and there's not many more. It's like 206. It's at the bottom of the barrel. And if I look, and I've looked at the budget, okay? Because when I look at taxes and all that, there's two sides of this equation. There's the income side, and that's what you're trying to get more out of us, right? But there's also the other side of the equation that nobody really wants to talk about, and that's the outflow. Okay, and that's where you get the balanced budget, okay? So most of our money, guess where it's going? It's public schools.
Oh, we don't manage that here, so.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I was like, wait a minute. I hear you.
54% of the money that you bring in, it's going toward public schools they're horrible.
I'll have to dig into that.
You're right. So in what was passed in Senate Enrolled Act 1, the new lit that the mayor's referenced multiple times that the council will have to address at some point in the future, none of that money is available to schools. So I bring that up because you're going to see over the next 3 to 4 years a shift from property tax-based funded government to income tax-based funded government. Who pays income tax? You all do, right? We do as individuals. What happens if we're not investing in our infrastructure, in our quality of place, in all the things all the reasons you all live here? What happens? You leave. Then it becomes a snowball effect that causes even a worse situation. So I would just, as you're thinking about income tax-based system going forward, make sure you understand that it's the people that are going to pay that, and if you don't have any people, you're not going to have any revenue. So it's just this circular motion that's got to be kept up, or you're going to see further decay in the schools, further decay in your infrastructure that you're not seeing now. Those are all things that are on the horizon if we don't adjust and adapt quickly, which I'm really encouraged to see you all looking at this first step tomorrow night. I think it's really important.
And let me add to the school system, because my kids are products of the school system. They all graduate with their degrees in 3 years. So I'm just gonna say that. I don't know, I think they were great. And I will say too, that, there was COVID killed a lot of public schools that weren't ready. Because I'm gonna tell you, my daughter was class of 2019. They won awards for having the number one. They were number one in AP credits, right? Michigan City High School. So I don't want to get into this, putting Michigan City High School down. I'm just saying that because there was a lot of factors that impacted that. And part of that is when COVID-19, I was talking to some of my peers. I was in Florida. And those kids continued to go to school during COVID while we had kids at home. Big difference. I'm not a virtual learner at all. My daughter came home from IU. She's not a virtual learner. She struggled until they went back to class. And what happened was, it's a snowball effect. And it's a lot of schools reaping that situation where you got people that aren't at home with their kids and they're supposed to do virtual learning. Big difference when you have a high percentage of single family homes and people working. So I think there's a lot, but you're seeing that across America. And if you're not already in a high income city with a lot of taxes, because Carmel and those folks they're not experiencing it, but you're paying for what you're getting. And we don't charge for anything. We don't. We tried 2 referendums. I led one referendum. I was the chair. We had 2 failed school referendums. And at that first one, I almost moved away from Michigan City. I was like, people don't value education. No, they do. They don't understand the mechanism for funding. I never thought I would still be here, so I'm here. But it was one of those things that I was so hurt and distraught about the referendum not passing. And it made like it was just for those people. And that's when I was like, okay, we got an issue here. I'm better here than moving off and not doing something. But we're gonna get through this. It's just gonna be cuts that are gonna come. Cuts are coming. We're looking for ways to become more efficient, how to do things differently. Sean Smith and Tim are back there, and we're talking about, you know, how do we do in-house paving? The equipment's $2 million, you know, but I think it's a good investment to figure out how to do it. So we're going to close. I know. Thank you. I'm sorry that the room was, you know, there was some confusion, but I'm glad you were able to come and still get some of your questions answered. The clerk's office will have the PowerPoint presentation and the additional documents so that if you want copies of it, you can get it. And then I'm happy to stick around and ask questions. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, where do we get the
clerk's office.
Okay.
Yep, I'm gonna
It's not big room upstairs.
email the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, that's what I watched.
Yes. Yes.